Sure.
Tell you how they do it in Eagle Mountain. Where we got caught with the city was we had Elk Ridge City, that was a profile. It was not an individual. It was
Right.
like gave someone an identity to hide behind, essentially. But what they do in Eagle Mountain is, mayor says.
I think I am.
It says mayor. Well, so in your case, you would create a page that says Mayor Hal Shelley. I would have one that says Councilman Nelson Abbott. And then when you go in, you would log into that account to post specifically on that, and that'd be the only time you'd use that. And then that way, it would allow the people reading the content to know who was actually posting it. And I think that's why Facebook pulled it down. As I understand, and the way that I read their rules and regs, that's where the rub is. So, you know, if Melanie created one Melanie Hoover city employee and then she posted, then they would know that it was posted by her and not by a handful of.
Oh boy, let's not do that.
Well, no, but I'm just saying.
But light up with Melanie's name.
Well, I know it. But we need to have an account that is specific, and it be, you know, I would say it needs, if we're going to do it, we need to have a specific employee, and all they do is just post the information and respond to questions, and there's a way to lock it down tight enough so that they can ask a question and you can respond, but that's all the further it goes. And they can actually approve the question before it actually posts and they get notified.
The other question and concern that we have with this is when we did have it up and active, our staff was spending time that they don't have to look over a social media frenzy, quite frankly. And we just don't have the time, unless you want to approve some more time for our employees, to do that specific thing. What I'm recommending is that we review the Facebook concept. Let's see if we can find a way to make it work and make it work appropriately, effectively. But I told the gals and Royce, you don't have the time to spend to communicate back and forth as was going on. Yeah. And we just don't have that. And I want this to be an information site, a public service to the city to offer information, not a discussion. If they want to discuss, for goodness sakes, show up at this meeting. I'm getting real frustrated with the idea that we're going to banter back and forth, and what have we solved? There has been divisiveness that has come as a result of all of this. We don't need a divided city. We've got enough issues, and we get plenty of calls, and we do respond to them, but I don't want it to get to be, I want to get away from the frenzy that it was.
So what if we just allow it as an information only and no commenting?
Yeah.
No comments are approved?
And that's what I'm asking.
We don't.
What did you do with the Elk Ridge page on the account? If individuals want to do something different, then do
yeah,
it.
the city website is the same thing. It's an information dispensing option.
Yeah.
And Facebook becomes a dispensing option. Then I can see us going that way, but and I would then instruct, or we would discuss, and we would say, here's what we need posted.
Right.
Well, part of the problem is that the council as a whole doesn't necessarily use this. I never get on it. So I don't know what the heck's going on out there. Are there surveys going on? Are there people signing petitions to put in lights?
Oh, you missed a whole lot of stuff.
Well, not on the city's official page, and we need to make that clear. The city's page is the city's page. The city's page legally should only be used for official city communication. And that's what the mayor's saying. Anything goes on my community page. I mean, you want to try and post something really nasty and rotten?
But everybody thinks your community page is the same.
See,
well, that's because
and that's where
people saying that it is when it isn't. If they would read it,
there needs to be a disclaimer. Probably
pull it down, and then we won't even have it.
That would be
Is that what
great.
people
No,
want?
I'm saying, if you were to just put a disclaimer to make sure that the residents understand.
Well, I'll tweak it tomorrow, and it'll.
And see if that that would, I think, assist.
I will tweak it, I'll go in and I'm gonna put in like 50 point
Nelson Abbott's
font.
Elk Ridge Community Page.
Yep,
Yeah.
and that's
Right.
exact
Okay.
councilman,
So
and I
everyone
will
knows.
change the name, and then if anybody pitches a fit, they're gone.
Take them
They will
off.
be gone.
Understand.
I think your page is good because it allows the residents to communicate, it allows people to post all sorts of random things. Lost dog, I found somebody's cat, it's at my house. You know what I mean? That's important
Salem
to
Canal.
residents.
The benefit
That was a
everybody can
great
agree about the
approach
page
today.
you're talking about, 99% great. It's when a couple people get on and they can't stop. Everybody has to have the last word, it just never ends. That's when it kind of turns ugly.
Okay.
But 99% of it is amazing and it's such good information. So if there's a small tweak that has to happen, so there's not.
Okay, I will change the name tomorrow, it'll be Nelson Abbott's Elk Ridge Community Facebook page.
Please, have those people on
And
there.
then I'm gonna post a link to this meeting so they can see the discussion.
Roy's gonna help you.
And that's important too.
But
Can't wait for it.
Shh, please.
That's where I think we should be encouraging people to come to the meetings and not be getting onto the sites. The same thing with this Comcast, I think this is ridiculous. You're basically telling people, hey, let's tune in and watch the meeting where you don't have to attend. You know, to me, we should be encouraging,
I think,
and there's ways to do
There's
it.
plenty of people who can't come out to meetings.
And
And
I-
4K will broadcast everyone. This is the way you can broadcast it, to get the people who can't make it, who have scouting and church callings, and we've got plenty of people in our ward that can't even come to church. So, what does it matter? I mean, this could be a link on that community page every week. It's
Let's move on.
perfect.
Let's move on. UDOT traffic signal. As soon as we found out about those accidents and that death, I was out of town. Royce contacted Brian, that very moment, made multiple phone calls. He went through the proper procedures. He contacted the UDOT, he contacted the county road department, he contacted Salem, and to try and follow where all of this was going. And I really appreciate that. And as soon as I got back, I got on the phone and I called UDOT to ask what the circumstances were. I spoke with the director over Region 3 out of the Orem office, and we had the discussion, and he asked me some questions. It almost sounded like he really didn't have as much information as I had, and I thought maybe he would have more, but I had to confirm to him the number of accidents that had happened over the last 3 or 4 months, and then he said, well, we need to conduct a survey, a study, a warrant study, but he had to have permission to be able to conduct that study. He said, I will go ahead and I think, because Brian had already started the ball rolling, and he had already petitioned to have that study in place. And then, once the study's done, then it has to be reviewed, and then the decision needs to be made as to what's going on. I've also contacted Nebo School District to see, because of the tremendous amount of impact between individual riders as well as the school buses, and one of the recent accidents included a school bus, and they were very willing to step into the picture with us as well. They've already made contact back with Salem City and the police department there. I was drafting a letter, Brian drafted an initial letter to send to UDOT because I had called UDOT back 3 or 4 times and said, could you just tell me where things are? And I never got a call. And so I asked Brian, would you draft that letter yesterday? And so he sent it to me. I tweaked it a little bit and added a little bit more to it. And a half hour later, I got a call. We haven't sent the letter. I'm going to have to retweak a little bit because we were asking if the study had been done. The study has been done. The information is being reviewed right now. What the recommendation is going to be, I don't know. There was recommendation from Salem is that typically typical studies indicate that you put in a traffic light, accidents increase because people are trying to beat the lights. And Shay's nodding his head as he understands that. And I know that typically when we say we do a study, this is the end result. Not always are those studies necessarily applicable to our particular situation. And I'm going to redraft that letter and ask them to still consider that they put in a light, particularly in as much as within 2 years, we hope, that road is going to be extended. And the warrant study normally would not take place until after that road has been in place and functioning for some time, so that they can measure traffic. And I said in the letter, I'm going to ask them, please, let's jump ahead of that issue. And so you know where that is, and Brittany, Dale, and then
Can we get a copy of their study results?
we'll ask for it, yes. He's going to contact me. He said, I'll contact you as soon as I get those results in. But I'll ask him for copies, yes.
Yeah, I did. I had called Richard Nelson with the county to just get an update on the road, you know, to see if they had purchased property yet and what the plan was. And I mentioned to him about the accidents there. We're definitely going to need a light there when that road goes in. And he said that as far as they were concerned, you know, they were planning to put in all of the structure for the light, where it would just, for the signal, it would just be a matter of them hooking up. It sounded like it could be done within a couple of weeks as far as their control. Yes. I think it's a UDOT, where it's a state highway. I think they are the ones that have the control. But
well, the county is the one who is putting in the extension road, and so all the planning and engineering has to coordinate with UDOT, but the county is the one that's doing that. They have opted to go and rebid that whole engineering process out rather than give it to the initial engineers. And I had a discussion also with Glenn Tanner from the county department about 2 weeks ago, and they still had 2 or 3 properties that needed to have commitment to sell, though there was not final sale approval on that.
I did see them down there counting out. The only thing with that is they were doing it before school started. I wonder if some photos, because there's multiple things. Safety is one of them. Also traffic breaks. There's obviously 0 traffic break coming from Payson. And if you go there in the morning around 7:30, it's lined up. And then they're cutting around, you know, the lower roads because it's all the way up the road to the next highway. I wonder if some photos of that line of cars would help them with that process.
When
they weren't doing the study.
When I first spoke with Mr. Phillips? Brian Phillips from UDOT. He said, we'll go ahead and start this study. And I said, you realize that you're not going to get an accurate reading until school starts? He said, maybe we should have waited until after. And I said, well, if you've got it started, don't stop it. But if we need a second one to get an accurate picture, let's make sure we do that. He said, we will. Will we? I don't know. We'll wait and see what the recommendation is.
Maybe do those photos with after. Sugar them to go do that. We got to look at this a little harder.
Yeah, we'll watch. We're going to watch this really, really closely.
I talked yesterday with the police chief over at Salem. They were the ones that investigated the accidents, and all of them. And because he had sent a letter. Our initial approach was to get the county involved, to send a letter, us involved to put pressure, and also have Salem City do it. Because I don't think it's even in Salem. I think it's just the corner of that intersection is Salem, but it's
the road itself.
The road itself is not. So I talked to him about it and got a copy of the letter. He says, whenever you put in a stoplight, accidents actually go up. And he says, for that reason, in the letter, I didn't request a stoplight be put in, but we requested that they take that information from their survey and make recommendations to us as to how they can cut down on the risk and the danger in that intersection. What has happened is that cars, most of the accidents that have occurred is cars making the turn into Elkridge, turn into oncoming traffic. Either it's, you know, they're blinded from the sun going down, or apparently this time of the day that wasn't an issue, but I think there's two issues here. Right now, I think we're gonna have to have a light in there eventually, because when the road goes through, it's gonna have to, you know, there's no way you can do it now. So we might as well put it in now, even if it is not the biggest. And the other thing is, you got cars coming through there at 55 miles an hour.
So can they
When
go
they-
to 40
when
mile or
And that's an option that they're talking about, is dropping the 40-mile-an-hour speed limit to the west, several hundred feet.
I wish I could go 55 on that road.
I've seen you.
Not going 55, I top out at about 35 on that road.
Yeah, he just needs a tune-up on that Mustang.